This video is going to go over how to use the DU Item Type Sync app and a little bit on the background on how things are set up. Now, the main purpose of this app is just to assist with the annotation process by attaching item types to the features that you place, the drainage and utility features. So let's start by just taking a look at our item types. And so what you'll notice is that there are 3 item types under this item type library for drainage and utilities. There's one for all the storm or sanitary conduits. There's one for all the storm or sanitary nodes, and there's one for the utility conduits. And so you'll see that there are several properties within these different item types. And so what I've done already with the workspace is I've defaulted these on all of our drainage and utility feature definitions. So if I take a look at, say, a conduit feature definition, you'll see that in that feature definition properties, I've already defined the item. So here's that item type. And I furthermore have defaulted the values that I can. So like the type, I've defaulted to type B. And the category is storm. So if we take a look at maybe existing one, you'll see I've defaulted the type to concrete, the prefix to existing, and whatnot. So that's just already been done. If you notice that these aren't set up or they're not there, you might have started, or you might have a really old copy of a DGN where you've used these features before and made those defaults. So what you can do is you can synchronize with the DGen lib that has these updates by just coming up to here, and you can right click and you get update standards from DGen lib, and that'll pull in all those if you are missing those. So what that means is as you place your network and you utilize these DU features, then you should automatically get the items attached. So if I click this node and I take a look at the properties, there's an items drop down, and there it's already got this on here, and it brought in those default values that I defaulted on the feature definition. So these default values will change based on the feature definition that you placed. Now, one thing I want to call out here is that if I take a look at, say, profile view, so this is actually of my alignment, and I made a profile run and projected it. So if I take a look at that same node in a different view, you'll notice that in the properties, there's no item showing up, right? So this is because in this version, already 10.10, Bentley has not implemented what they refer to as single source of truth for drainage and utility feature types. So what single source of truth means is no matter what view you're in, you are able to see the same item type. So right now I'm not seeing that, right? I'm in a different view, I'm not seeing that item type there. So the problem here is if I want to annotate a profile view, and I want to annotate this node, I now can't use those item type properties because they're not showing up. Okay. So if we take a look at ORD 1011, which I have up on the right side of the screen, this is where they have implemented this single source of truth concept. So here, if I select my node in my plan view, you'll notice they kind of subgrouped it into item related, so it looks a little different. But there's that item right there. And then if I click on it in my profile view, it still shows up, which is great. Now we can get these properties through all the different views. So what I mean by all different views is if you're in plan view, if you're in 3D, that's a different view. If you're in profile, just of a pipe, that's one view. If you're in a profile run of a pipe, that's another view. If you're in a projected profile run, that's another view. All those are separate views. So in 10.10, all those views, you wouldn't be able to see that item type property. So to further complicate this, in 10.11, even though they implemented single source of truth, what they did not get into the software is the ability to annotate off of that single source of truth. So if I wanted to annotate in my profile view this node, even though I can see the properties, I actually can't use these properties within a text element they just don't show up. So what I've been told is that it will not make it into the next release after ORD 10 and 11. So hopefully the release after the next release, it will have this fixed, and we can truly annotate off a single source of truth, and we don't have to do what I'm about to show. And then one more call out for a difference between 10.10 and 10.11 is even though on my feature definition for conduits, I have that item type defaulted, for some reason, when you place a pipe in 10.10, it does not include the item type. So it's a little bit of a bug, it's not there, but they did solve that in 10.11. So when I click on my pipe in 10.11, there is that item showing up. Okay. So there's a little bit of background and some differences between some versions here. So let's go into our solution. So I'm going to go back over to my ORD 1010 that I've opened. And so what we need to do is we need to be able to annotate in all these different views from the from the item type. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to attach an additional instance to each of our views. And then we can annotate off of those instances, right? So in this view, I would need to attach another instance of the item type, which would be separate from what I see in the plan view. I'd have to do the same thing in 3D, same thing in profile view, profile run view, projected, all those views would need this item type attached, right? So that would take a lot of work to do manually. So that's part of what this DU sync app is going to do. So let's start this up and run through it. So first thing is you want to make sure you're on the latest version. So if we go to help about, you should be on of this recording version 1.0.0.6. There's a help. This will take you to the wiki page with a help document and this video that you're watching. So when you're using this app, you're basically going to run from top to bottom. So the first one is attach missing item types to all DU items in all views. So basically, in all the views in this file, if it sees a drainage or utility feature placed, then it's going to attach the item type if it's not already attached, right? So let's do that now. So I'll hit that, and it's done. So now if I come over here in this view, let me click on this node, and let's see if there is an item type there. And now there's an item type, right? So it attached another instance. So it's important to note that in this view, this item type instance is separate from the plan view item type instance, right? So they're completely separate. Now this just attached it from the library, so none of the default values were set here. Okay. Same thing goes for this conduit, right? There was that bug where it wasn't including it. So if I come and take a look at it, you'll see that they did do some work on when you click on different views. You might have saw how it has some different items show up there. So this got attached. I'm looking at my 3D view, so let me actually click my plan view. I should just turn off my 3D view. So here you're seeing it is recognizing that some of these other views, so you can see from profile, from 3D. But here's the one that's directly on this plan view. And what you'll notice is that there are no default values because what this app does, it just attaches the missing ones. It's not like what the feature definition does where it has the values defaulted, right? So that leads us into the next button, is get the default item type values from dgenlib and set them on these instances, right? So and when I say instance, it's just going to do this in the design model. So the design model only. So if we hit this button, it will go through and update all the items in the design view to have those properties. So you see how they populated existing. So that's nice. And so the cool thing here is that if you don't like the default value, you can come over to Explorer and you can go find like the feature definitions you used, and you can come in here and you could change those default values for this file specifically. So I could come in here and maybe you don't like the dot. You can remove the dot, right? So if I remove the dot and then I come and hit this button again, it's going to go ahead and update all my pipes that use this feature definition to no longer have the dot. No more dot. So it's an easy way to control some of these default values in bulk for a given project. You just would have to change it for each of the feature definitions that you used. So this red checkbox, sync with file with dgenlib, will basically do the same thing that I showed earlier. If I come up here and right click on the file and I say update standards from dgenlib, checking this on will just do that. So if you do that and you change any of those default values I just mentioned, it will get changed back to what's in the dgenlib. So you only do that if you see that you're out of date or you don't have like the default item types attached and their default values. That's when you can do that. So hopefully that's pretty clear. So all we did was attach it to all the views, and then we're gonna get the default values for just the default view or the plain view. So next I mentioned there's all these extra properties here that we're gonna pull from the drainage, right? So if I come and I look, there's like say the size, or the slope, or the length, which is right in front of my face, right? Elevation, node name, node slope. Right here, I could see. So node to node length. So this button is going to update all of these, what I refer to as calculated properties. From the drainage properties, it's going to pull those in and populate those values. So let's go ahead and do that now. So now, if we take a look, you'll see that these plan view instances should be updated with their values, right? So it even brought in some connected information as well. So what node is at the start and at the end of this pipe. So all this good data. Now same thing for the nodes. If we take a look at that, I do want to call out some additional things that it's going to be doing here. So if we take a look at our item, it's going to pull in those properties as well. It's going to also pull in some connected property data. So the thing to mention here is the direction you draw your pipe matters. If it comes in as like a connected pipe 1 through 5, or if it comes in as the outgoing pipe. So basically what that means is if I draw the pipe from this node to this node, this pipe is now outletting here and inletting here. If I would have drew it from this node to this node, it would have been, there would be no outlet here, right? It would only be coming in. So do be careful on the direction you draw, or these properties won't fill out correctly. That's just the way the software works. The other thing to note is the station and offset will only get populated if your feature has the baseline reference set. So you notice right now it's not set. I did that on purpose. So you can select all your nodes and you can assign this in bulk if you needed to. So if I hit that button, it's going to say, what do you want to do? I want to set the reference, and then you're going to click your alignment. Okay. And so now this node has that alignment baseline set. You notice just in those feature definition properties, you'll see the station and the offset. So now if I come in and I hit this button to update those properties, you'll see that my item type property will get updated to show that station and offset. So let's select this again and take that. Oh, I don't want to move it. we take a look, you'll see now the station and offset is populated. Okay, so that's what that button is doing. But so these two buttons really only worked in the plan view, right? So if I come over and look at my profile view or any of the other views, you notice that the property values won't be updated just yet, right? Because again, this is a separate instance, right? It's a completely different item type instance than what's on the plan view. So I look at this one and none of these properties are filled out, right? So the way this app is going to work is it basically is going to synchronize your plan view to all your other views. So if you needed to change a value, if you a one-off value, maybe this one you needed to show one of these values slightly differently. Let me actually click the right one here. So you could come in here and you could change any of these values as you needed. And then when you come here and hit this second to last button, what it's going to do is it's going to take all your values from your plan view and set those values on all the other views. So that's your 3D view, your profile views, your profile runs, your projected profiles, all those are going to synchronize with your design view. And then all of your values will be the same across all your different views. So if we come here and click on this node, now we should see all those same properties showing up here. And there you go. Okay, so this last button, we're not going to get into this video just yet. More information will be coming, but basically, um, if you're going to do flex tables, you need some of these properties to show up in your flex tables. And so what this button will do is it'll take your item type properties and go and populate some custom properties on the drainage side so that you can see those in your flex tables and not have to like re-enter the same data that's already there, right? So like what type it is. Like if it's a type B pipe, it's already there. It's already defaulted in the feature definition. You don't ever have to type that in. You just got to hit a couple buttons and we'll get it through to where we need to get to. So that's what that button is doing. It'll just take some properties and move it over and copy it or basically grab the value and update a value on the drainage side to use with flex tables. So not the best workflow, but at least it gets us moving until we get a full-blown single source of truth. So the thing to remember here is each view has its own instance, so you always want to be working off your plan view instance, and then you just come here and hit the buttons to update it. So basically you hit top down, and that'll solve most of your problems. So if you see like you're missing default values, this is where the second button comes into play. If you see you're missing item type instances, that's where the first button comes into play. And so say you did this and then you add a pipe, you're gonna have to use these buttons again because that new pipe didn't get that instance added in all the views yet. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Now if I come over here into 10.11 and I run this app, I'm not going to re-go over everything, but what I wanted to call out is even though the single source of truth is there, like I mentioned earlier, we can't annotate off of it, so we still would have to run this app. So if I attach all these item types to the missing views, the single source of truth will still show up as well as your instance. So it gets a little, you see a lot more stuff going on here. Since it's single source of truth is kind of like showing you all the different instances. But the thing just to keep in mind is that if you just use this app and you work off of your plan view, you don't really need to worry about these other views because the app's going to manage all that for you, and then you can just annotate by using the the civil labeler or place label with all the text favorites. I already have them set up. So I'm not going to go over placing text in this video, but I do want to note in that 10.11, the profile view civil labeler is broken. So if you're going to annotate your profile view in 10.11, you're going to have to use place label instead of civil labeler because there's that. Just they broke it. It's not going to work if you try to use civil labeler in profile view for annotating these items. So now I just want to quickly talk about what changes we'll see in the future. So as soon as single source of truth is fully implemented and we can annotate off of them, there will no longer be a need to attach item types to the missing views, right? Because the single source of truth will come through from the feature definition. It'll show up there, and then it'll just be there, and you can use it through all your views. So we won't need that view, that button. I envision we will still have the get default items, so you can still control those default values. It would only be for that single source of truth item type. And then we'll still have this update property values just for the speed aspect of it, so that we're just going to pull those values like the size from the drainage properties. And we won't really need this one anymore because we won't have to sync to other views because we will only have one instance of the item type. We'll probably still have this. So in the future, this app is probably going to change a little bit as we don't need all the buttons. I kind of almost envision another button to remove the extra instances when we get to a newer version that we don't need them anymore because it just gets confusing, right? So hopefully this video will clarify how to set up for annotation. When with all those properties in there, then it makes using the text favorites that are set up pretty easy. They're labeled pretty self-explanatory. You select the one you need, and it labels it. So if you are still confused, I would say when in doubt, click from the top down, and that'll probably solve most of your guys' annotation problems when it comes to drainage and utilities.